As time passes, it looks more and more like the situation with the OceanGate Titan sub that was going to visit the Titanic wreckage will be a catastrophe. It will be a tragedy. And that's most unfortunate. And my heart goes out to the families of the folks that are there, all the folks that are impacted by this, because this is truly not just going to be a tragedy, but a scandal in terms of the background, the safety, and what's going on revolving the Ocean Gate sub. As always, I'm Andrew Esquire, American attorney, and this is the Legal Mindset, where we let you be your own judge. And today we're going to talk about something that is both timely and a bit somber, but also raises a lot of different questions. It raises questions of sovereignty. For example, this is an issue that is happening on international waters. This is happening where there are no rules, where libertarians would set up seasteads and whatnot, and just live without any sort of oversight or regulation. And what we may see coming from this is, in fact, a lot of regulation, not just of submersibles like the OceanGate Titan sub, which was not subject to the same requirements as a ship that's on the top of the water. But we're going to see not just regulations for those and those produced in America and the West, but I think we're also going to see regulations that are going to be put upon international waters and further restricting those that would go out there and try to do things, let's say, a little bit under par. And furthermore, we're going to see billions of dollars in liability for OceanGate as a company, which is headquartered in Washington in the United States, just outside of Seattle. And we're also going to see, in addition, probably unfortunately, wrongful death suits that are going to be brought by these families. And also we have included in those 5 passengers the CEO of the company. So really, it's sad that this will be, it seems, the end of OceanGate, as we're looking at the potential liability they're going to face, the regulation, and everything that will come from this. So for those that don't know the background, OceanGate is a company that was offering tours of the Titanic. They were offering a Titanic expedition. And of course, look, the Titanic is something that is very well in the minds of those around the world. People watched Titanic, the movie starring Leonardo DiCaprio, and they were fascinated by the wreckage, by the mystique, by the era, by the hubris of the technology. And perhaps in a very sad, somber way, this is a parallel of relying, looking at the technology and thinking, oh, it's okay, we can just go with this, without thinking of fail-safes, without thinking of contingencies. And these crewed missions that were going down by OceanGate in the OceanGate Titan, and that is a depiction right here, a rendering of the Titan next to the Titanic, right, looking at the wreckage. These cost about $250,000 a pop. So every person going down there would pay about $250,000, which apparently was very cheap, because apparently the cost of fuel, just fuel alone, just to get there, was $1 million. So they're really not making that much money on this endeavor, which perhaps is going to go to show why it seems to very clear now that OceanGate was cutting corners on their submersible and cutting corners in their operations. So these crewed sites were advertised and planned for 18 dives. They planned 18 dives in the summer of 2023 and beyond. So this is kind of early into their plans. This happened relatively early on into their planned series of dives, going down to 3,800 meters. Approximately 380 nautical miles south of Newfoundland. Yeah, this is a lot. This is a lot that they were planning to do down to see the Titanic. And look, I know the interest is there, but does that justify cutting corners on the way there? And we're going to see that this company, if we talk about negligence in a legal sense and gross negligence, I believe they rose to clearly gross negligent, if not wanton disregard standard of proof here with their actions. And I do think, by the way, that there could be some folks that are involved in this that could potentially even be liable criminally. We will see where this proceeds coming from this. But there were warnings as of 5 years ago about the danger of the Titan submersible. There were people that were coming out there and saying this thing was dangerous. And we're seeing these reported here on Twitter, left and right, with them really focusing on the submersible not being classified, not being certified to go to that depth. and the various components of that submersible were not capable of going to that depth. And they'd make up excuses like saying, oh, well, the classification and the certification isn't important. It doesn't properly address operational risks. And I like this comparison here. Imagine if a car manufacturer told you this car isn't crash certified because it won't prevent people from driving badly. That's the same sort of logic that they were using in cutting corners. They're saying, well, you're never totally safe, right? No matter what you do, you're never totally safe. So don't worry about it. It doesn't matter whether we're certified or not, right? We're going to YOLO this. And I understand, look, I'm no fan of regulation over regulation, but I do think there should be certain standards and guidelines that are followed. There's a reason why businesses follow industry standards. You say, okay, this is the way we do it because this is the safer and more reliable method. This is the time-tested method. And I get that sometimes adventure and pioneering does involve taking risks. But at this point where the sub was, they were moving into commercial territory. The Titanic is not something that we have just seen for the first time. We've seen the Titanic many times. In fact, James Cameron went down to the Titanic 33 times. But the difference is that when James Cameron went down, he went down in something that looked much like this. You can see James Cameron on the top in his submersible. And what they went down there on OceanGate was on the bottom. It was a game controller and consumer grade electronics inside with a single activation button, really nothing else in the submersible, just a single button to turn it on. That's it, push and go with consumer grade products within the submersible. You can see the inside of Cameron's submersible, much more detailed, much more redundant than this, which is just a barren metal tube. And so this was kind of pointed out repeatedly by the folks over here on Twitter. And I want to point out some warnings that were given. And these warnings were given, fairly quickly, fairly shortly before the actual tragedy. And when you see things like this happening and you decide to go ahead, I think this is certainly wanton disregard. So let's listen into what happened to these guys just mere weeks before this tragedy.
I said, do you know where we are? 100 meters to the bow, then 470 to the bow. If you are lost, so are we.
There's no...
So hold on. If you are lost, so are we. So just understand that this submarine and its support ship, the parent ship up above, they communicate by text message. So if one of them's not getting that message, it's completely lost. They don't know where they are. They have no way to navigate independently. That's it. This is not a great system to run on. And let me rewind that a bit and play it through.
100 meters to the bow, then 470 to the bow. If you are lost, so are we.
There's no GPS underwater, so the surface ship is supposed to guide the sub to the shipwreck by sending text messages.
Turn 30 degrees right?
Probably, 30 degrees.
But on this dive, communication...
Did you hear that? They're like probably 30 degrees. By the way, I want to point out something else as well. There was separate filming given to me by Max Mura of the staff that they were hiring at OceanGate. And they were actually justifying hiring inexperienced staff that had not worked on submarines, staff that had no Navy experience, no military experience. They justified hiring these people like surfers, like people who are college kids, because they said we want to be diverse. Yes, I'm not kidding. They said they wanted to be diverse and have people with a diversity of experiences, not just 50-year-old white submarine guys. Their words, not mine, in an interview with the OceanGate company. So they were hiring inexperienced employees as well to oversee this project. So you not only have a product where you're cutting corners, but you have people that are not as experienced as they should be to do this job.
By sending text messages.
Turn 30 degrees right?
Probably, 30 degrees.
And that guy, so you hear that say probably 30 degrees. Not even sure, just maybe 30 degrees.
But on this dive, communications somehow broke down. The sub never found the wreck.
We were lost. We were lost for 2.5 hours.
Rush says he'll offer those passengers a free do-over next year. And that's just one cost of doing this business.
Are you making money on this operation? No. So, not yet. People might say, hey, that's a lot of money, $250,000. But we went through over $1 million of gas.
So once again, this is the thing. If you're running this thing as a low budget, a low budget operation, you're gonna have those risks. And one thing they bring up is, oh, well, they were required to sign a waiver, right? There was a waiver beforehand. And I'll show you guys them, going through this and going through the waiver real quick. But no waiver is going to get you out of wanton disregard, gross negligence. If you ever sign a waiver and they go to this level, an OceanGate level of negligence, yeah, that waiver is not going to stick. OceanGate is going to be hit with this. They're going to be held culpable for this, absolutely. Under American law. But let's just check in on this so you guys see this.
Service. An experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death.
Did you guys catch that? Did you guys catch that? Hold on, one more time. I want to get that waiver in there.
An experimental submersible vessel that has not been approved or certified by any regulatory body and could result in physical injury, disability, emotional trauma, or death. Where do I sign?
Okay, so just real quick, just because you tell people, and look, yes, of course, having express consent is better than not having express consent, but it doesn't get you out of your duty, right? You should have a duty before you send somebody down there to do some basic due diligence on whether or not you're going to be able to do this reliably, predictably, especially if you're doing this for profit, for money, right? So to me, that waiver, despite the fact they warned of serious injury or death, not going to get them out of it. Despite the fact they said their submarine was not classified, not going to get them out of it. Particularly when you see, once again, what they're dealing with on the inside.
Oh, take your shoes off. That's customary.
Okay. Wow. Inside, the sub has about as much room as a minivan.
So this is not your grandfather's submersible. We only have one button. That's it. It should be like an elevator. It shouldn't take a lot of skill.
The Titan is the only 5-person sub in the world that can reach Titanic depths, 2.4 miles below the sea. It's also the only one with a toilet, sort of. And yet, I couldn't help noticing how many pieces of this sub seemed improvised.
We can use these off-the-shelf components. I got these from Camper World.
So you've got consumer grade, going back here, consumer grade electronics. So once again, consumer grade is not meant to stand up to the salt water, to the corrosion, to the temperature changes. So all of this stuff is going to fail. Like when you go down there with consumer grade, it's going to fail because it's never been tested under these conditions. It has no predictability and reliability of those particular products. So I guarantee you that little campering light, yeah, that thing is probably long out by now. Just throwing that out there.
From Camper World, we run the whole thing with this game controller.
Come on!
And some people have said, okay, defending the game controller because, okay, it's intuitive and it's simple to run. Okay, whatever. But beyond that, if you want to go beyond what they're doing with just the game controller and you look at the actual ballast of this, it was just actually a bunch of... the ballast itself was just literally a bunch of tubes. So the ballast was an absolute joke. Just a bunch of metal tubes that were just thrown down here. Here, I got a picture of it right here. A bunch of metal tubes and some sandbags. Yeah, that's the ballast. Does that look like it's reliable? No, it looks like they were going for a minimum viable submersible, the minimum viable thing to get them going. And that's really the issue here, and that's what's going to have them held liable in court in the United States, particularly when I think there is going to be wrongful death suits here. There is going to be follow-ups from this, and I absolutely think that this is something that is going to result in regulation. Now, look, like I said, I am not a fan of regulation. I'm not a fan of going out there, particularly in regulating one of the last unregulated areas, international waters. But unfortunately, when you have 5 people from several countries dying, you're going to have, a Frenchman who is one of the biggest experts on the Titanic. You're going to have a British billionaire aviation expert pass away, a Pakistani billionaire and his son, right? The CEO of OceanGate. I mean, this is going to be major. This is going to be a big thing. And all the countries are going to come together and say, hey, we're never letting this happen again. that's absolutely in the cards. I want to know what you guys think about this, but please maintain respect in the comments. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe on this video. I hope to bring more information on this as it unfolds and cover it really from a legal and a regulatory standpoint, because this will certainly have an effect in the courtroom and in the statutes. Hope you guys take care. See you.